It started with a whisper on a cold sidewalk. Rain had just stopped. The city lights flickered through puddles like broken promises. Eduardo stood there, frozen in his tailored suit, tie slightly loosened from a long day, his world about to shatter. He wasn't supposed to be here. This wasn't his neighborhood. This wasn't his life. But something had pulled him off the main road. A feeling, a pull in his chest, like a thread tied to his heart had snapped taut, and then he saw them. Two small boys, barely 5 years old, sitting on the filthy edge of the pavement, backs against a graffiti-covered wall. Their clothes were torn, their faces smudged with dirt. One had a cut on his knee. The other was shivering, arms wrapped tightly around himself. But it wasn't their condition that stopped Eduardo's breath. It was their faces, identical to his son, to Pedro. His son, his only child, was safe at home, tucked into bed after a long day at school. Eduardo had kissed his forehead just hours ago. He'd watched him sleep. There was no way, no possible way that these boys were related. And yet they blinked the same way, the exact same rhythm, like a mirror. They tilted their heads when listening, just like Pedro. They even scratched their ears with the same nervous habit. Eduardo's hands trembled. His heart pounded so hard he thought it might crack a rib. Who are you?" he asked, voice cracking. One of the boys looked up. "I'm Lucas." The other, quieter, "I'm Mateo." Eduardo dropped to his knees, right there, on the wet concrete, didn't care about the suit, didn't care about appearances. "How old are you?" he whispered. "5," Lucas said, holding up 5 fingers. "We've been here 3 days and 3 nights. 3 days." Eduardo's stomach dropped. "Where are your parents?" Silence. Then Mateo, barely above a whisper, "We don't have any." Eduardo felt something inside him break. Not crack, break. Like glass hit by a hammer. He pulled out his phone, called his driver, ordered the car to come now. Then he took off his coat and wrapped it around the boys. They flinched at first like they expected a hit, but he just held them, close. "You're safe now," he said, voice shaking. "You're safe." When the car arrived, he didn't hesitate. He carried them both inside, cradling them like they were made of glass. At home, Rosa, his housekeeper, the woman who'd raised Pedro since birth, nearly dropped the tray of tea when she saw them. "Dios mío," she gasped. Eduardo stopped her. "No. Don't say that, don't bring that into this." He wasn't religious, never had been, and he didn't need divine explanations for what was happening. He needed answers. Pedro, hearing the commotion, came running down the hall. "Papa, who are they?" Eduardo knelt. "I don't know, Mijo. But I think they might be your brothers." Pedro's eyes widened. "I have brothers." Eduardo didn't answer. He couldn't. Because in that moment a terrifying thought hit him. What if they are? His wife, Patricia, she died giving birth. Complications. The doctors said it was a miracle Pedro survived. They said there were no other babies. But what if they were wrong? What if someone lied? That night, Eduardo couldn't sleep. He sat in his study, staring at the 2 boys asleep on the guest bed, wrapped in clean blankets, faces finally relaxed. They looked like Pedro, exactly like him, not just similar, identical. And then there was the way they moved, the way they breathed, the way they both sneezed at the same time during dinner, covering their mouths with the same hand. It wasn't normal. It wasn't possible. So the next morning he made 2 calls. First to Dr. Enrique, a man who'd been his family's physician for over 20 years. A man who'd delivered Pedro, a man who knew things, secret things. "Eduardo," the doctor said, voice low, "what's happened? I need you to come, now, and bring the DNA kit." A pause. Then, "Is it about the boys?" Eduardo froze. "You know about them." "I don't, but I've been waiting for this call for 5 years." second call, to his lawyer, Dr. Roberto Mendez. Roberto, I need every legal option, every protection. I'm bringing 2 children into my home. And I don't know how they got here, but I know I'm not letting them go. By noon, Dr. Enrique arrived. He took saliva samples from all 3 boys, Pedro, Lucas, and Mateo, labeled them with codes, stored them in sealed containers. I'll take these myself, he said. 72 hours. We'll have the results. Then he looked at Eduardo, dead serious. This isn't just about DNA, is it? Eduardo asked. No, the doctor said. It's about how they exist and who allowed it. What are you talking about? But the doctor just shook his head. Wait for the results. And Eduardo, be ready. This will change everything. That night, as the boys slept, Eduardo sat by the window. He thought about Patricia, her smile, her strength, the way she held his hand during labor, squeezing so hard he thought his fingers would break. She'd screamed. For hours. The doctors had said it was a single birth, 1 baby, extreme complications. But what if it wasn't? What if there were 3, and what if 2 of them were taken? Why and by whom, he didn't know. But he was going to find out, even if it destroyed him. The house was quiet, too quiet. Like the world had held its breath. Eduardo sat in the dim glow of the study lamp, the kind of silence that doesn't feel peaceful, it feels loaded. Like the air itself was waiting for something to break, and it would. Because in exactly 24 hours, the DNA results would arrive. Doctor. Enrique had called earlier that evening, voice low, calm. But Eduardo heard it, the weight behind every word. We're close, Eduardo, closer than you think. He didn't sleep, couldn't. Instead, he paced, back and forth, past the framed photos of Pedro as a baby, past the bookshelf where Patricia's favorite novels still sat, untouched, past the window where, just 2 days ago, he'd seen 2 boys on the street who looked like they'd stepped out of a nightmare. And now they were his, sleeping under the same roof, wearing Pedro's clothes, laughing at Rosa's jokes like they'd always belonged. But was it real? Or was this all some cruel illusion? He grabbed his phone, scrolled to the photos. There, Lucas, mid-bite into a pancake, syrup on his cheek, laughing. Mateo, whispering something to Pedro, both of them giggling like they'd known each other their whole lives. Pedro, his Pedro, holding Lucas's hand like he was afraid he'd disappear. And then the third photo. All 3 of them, side by side, sitting on the couch, same eyes, same nose. Same way of tilting their heads when they were curious. It wasn't just similar, it was identical, triplets. The word echoed in Eduardo's skull like a gunshot. He dropped the phone, sat down hard. Triplets. Patricia had been pregnant with 3, but the doctors said 1. 1 baby. 1 miracle. 1 loss. They said the others didn't make it. They said they died. But what if they lied? What if someone took them? He stood again, walked to the door of the guest room. Slowly, quietly, he opened it. There they were. All 3 boys, curled together in one bed, arms tangled, heads touching, breathing in the same rhythm. Like they'd never been apart. Like their bodies remembered each other. Eduardo's throat tightened. He didn't believe in fate, didn't believe in destiny. But this wasn't coincidence. This was something else. Morning came. Sunlight poured through the windows. Birds chirped. The world moved on. But Eduardo felt like he was standing still, trapped between 2 realities, one where he was a father of 1 and one where he was a father of 3. Rosa was already in the kitchen, humming as she flipped pancakes. Buenos dias, señor, she said softly, not turning. They slept like angels. Eduardo leaned against the doorway. You knew, didn't you? She paused. The spatula hovered over the pan. Then, slowly, she turned. Her eyes, dark, deep, full of years, met his. I didn't know, she said, but I suspected. Eduardo's breath caught. Why didn't you say anything? Because, she said, voice barely above a whisper, I saw the pain in your eyes when Patricia died. And I saw how you broke when they told you only one baby survived. I didn't want to give you hope, only to have it crushed again. Eduardo stepped forward. But you saw something. She nodded. The day Pedro was born, there was movement in the delivery room. Too many people, too many whispers. I wasn't supposed to be there, but I went to bring you water, and I saw them. Saw who? Two nurses, carrying two small bundles wrapped in blue, not crying, not moving, but alive. Eduardo's heart stopped. They took them out a side door, Rosa continued. I asked the nurse on duty what happened. She said complications. Twins didn't make it, but their chests, they were rising. I saw it. Eduardo staggered back, leaned on the counter. They were alive, he whispered. All three were alive. Rosa wiped her hands on her apron. I wanted to tell you. But your mother, she came in crying, saying it was better this way, that you couldn't handle losing all three, that it was a mercy. A mercy, Eduardo spat. Stealing my children is a mercy. Rosa didn't answer. She didn't have to, because in that moment the truth hit him like a train. His mother, Elena, she'd been there every step of the way. She'd made the call, she'd decided, and she'd lied. Later that morning the doorbell rang. Eduardo opened it. Dr. Enrique stood there, briefcase in hand, face unreadable. No smile, no greeting, just silence. Eduardo stepped aside. The doctor walked in, went straight to the study. Eduardo followed. The door closed. Sit down, Dr. Enrique said. Eduardo didn't. Just tell me. The doctor opened the briefcase, pulled out a single sheet of paper. Eduardo's hands trembled as he took it. His eyes scanned the top. Genetic relationship analysis report subject A. Pedro Fernandez biological sample subject B. Lucas biological sample subject C. Mateo biological sample. Then the conclusion. Full siblings. Yes, identical triplets. Confirmed. Eduardo's knees gave out. He dropped into the chair. His breath came fast, shallow, his heart pounding like it wanted to escape. He read it again and again and again. Identical triplets, not half-brothers, not cousins, not random lookalikes, triplets, his sons, all three, born from Patricia, born from him. And someone had taken two of them. Eduardo, Dr. Enrique said gently, they're yours, biologically, undeniably. Eduardo covered his face. A sound came out, half sob, half laugh. I have 3 sons, he whispered. I have 3 sons. Then slowly he looked up. His eyes, red, raw, locked onto the doctor's. If they're mine, then who took them? Dr. Enrique exhaled. That's what we need to find out. He opened the folder again, this time medical records. Lucas and Mateo, he said, have the same rare congenital heart defect as Pedro. Eduardo froze. What? It's called double outlet right ventricle, extremely rare, affects 1 in 100,000 births, and it's genetic. Eduardo's mind raced. So they'll need surgery. Yes, but here's what's unbelievable. Their condition is less severe than Pedro's. Eduardo blinked. How? Because they were given preventative treatment at birth. What? The hospital records show they received a specialized enzyme therapy within hours of being born, a treatment that doesn't even exist in public hospitals, a treatment that costs hundreds of thousands. Eduardo's blood ran cold. They weren't abandoned, he whispered. They were raised. Dr. Enrique nodded. Someone took them, kept them alive, gave them medical care, fed them, sheltered them, until something changed. Eduardo stood up. Until what? The doctor hesitated. Then he pulled out another document. A financial report. 2 million reais, he said. transferred from an offshore account to a clandestine fertility clinic during Patricia's pregnancy. Eduardo stared. What does that mean? It means, Dr. Enrique said slowly, that someone engineered this. Eduardo's breath stopped. What? They didn't just take the babies, they created them. Eduardo stepped back. What are you talking about? The embryos were modified, the doctor said, genetically enhanced, stronger immune systems, higher cognitive markers, longer life expectancy. This wasn't an accident, this was a project. Eduardo felt the room spin. They turned my children into experiments. They didn't just turn them into experiments, Dr. Enrique said, voice low. They invested in them, and now someone might want them back. Eduardo's fists clenched. No, he said, no one is taking them, not ever. The doctor looked at him. Eduardo, this goes deeper than you think. If this was a secret project, there are people, powerful people, who don't want this exposed. Let them come, Eduardo said, voice like steel. I don't care who they are. These are my sons, and I will fight for them. Doctor. Enrique nodded slowly. Then you'll need a plan. That afternoon, Eduardo called his lawyer. Dr. Roberto arrived within the hour. He listened, took notes, didn't interrupt. When the doctor left, Roberto looked up. Eduardo, he said, this is bigger than custody. This is legal warfare. I don't care, Eduardo said. I want full legal guardianship. I want their names on my birth certificate. I want them protected. Roberto leaned forward. If they were taken illegally, and if there's proof of medical tampering, we can file for emergency custody and launch a criminal investigation. Do it. But Eduardo, your mother, your family, if they were involved. I don't care, Eduardo said again. If my own blood stole my children, they're not my family anymore. Roberto nodded. Then we move fast, before anyone tries to silence this. That night, Eduardo sat on the edge of the bed. The boys were asleep. He watched them. Lucas stirred, mumbled something in his sleep. Eduardo leaned closer. Papa, the boy whispered. Eduardo's heart shattered. He reached out, gently brushed the hair from Lucas's forehead. I'm here, he whispered. I'm here now. Mateo rolled over, grabbed Pedro's arm, pulled it closer. Pedro, half asleep, mumbled, "Love you, brothers." Eduardo sat there for a long time, just watching, just breathing. 3 sons, 3 lives, 3 hearts beating in the same rhythm, and he'd missed 5 years. 5 years of first steps, 5 years of birthdays, 5 years of bedtime stories, 5 years of love, and it was stolen from him. By someone who claimed to love him, by someone who called themselves family, but not anymore. From now on, he was their father, and he would burn the world to keep them safe. The house was too quiet, not peaceful, too quiet, like the calm before a storm that had already started. Eduardo stood at the window of his study, the morning sun casting long shadows across the marble floor. His hands were clenched, his jaw tight, his mind racing. The DNA results were real. The boys were his, all 3, and someone in his own bloodline had stolen 2 of them. He turned. On the desk, the financial report, 2 million reais, transferred to a clandestine fertility clinic during Patricia's pregnancy. Not a donation, an investment, and the doctor's words still rang in his ears. This wasn't an accident, this was a project, meticulously planned, surgically executed. A project. His children, his sons, weren't just taken, they were engineered, modified, created, and hidden, by someone who claimed to love him, by someone who called herself family, his mother, Elena. He picked up the phone, dialed, 1 ring, 2, then her voice, soft, calm, like nothing was wrong. Eduardo Hijo, what a surprise. He didn't answer. Are the boys well? She asked. They're fine, he said, voice low, but I'm not. A pause. Then quieter, "What's happened?" "You tell me, Matter," he said. "Tell me about the other two babies." Silence, not shock, not denial, just silence. The kind that confirms everything. "I don't know what you mean," she said finally. Eduardo closed his eyes. "I have proof, Elena." Another pause. Then a whisper. "Where are you calling from?" "My home." "Can you come see me today?" "No," he said. "You come here now. And bring everything, every document, every record, every lie you've kept for 5 years." Now," he said, "or I go to the police, and I take every secret you've buried with me." An hour later, the gate buzzed. Eduardo opened the door himself. Elena stood there, smaller than he remembered. Fragile. Her hands trembled as she held a leather folder. She didn't speak, just walked in. Rosa appeared from the kitchen, eyes sharp, watching. Eduardo nodded. She disappeared down the hall. The boys were upstairs, safe. "Sit," he said. She did. He didn't. "Start from the beginning," he said. "And don't leave anything out." She looked down. Her fingers traced the edge of the folder. Then slowly she opened it. Photos, 3 tiny babies, pink, wrinkled, eyes closed, all identical, all alive. Eduardo's breath caught. Where were these taken?" "In the hospital," she said. "Minutes after birth." Eduardo's fists clenched. "You lied to me." "I didn't lie," she said. "I protected you." "Protected me," he spat. "You stole my children." "Patricia was dying," Elena said, voice breaking. 3 premature babies. The doctors said they couldn't save them all. They said one had a chance. One strong boy. Eduardo stared. "So you chose," she nodded. "We chose Pedro, the strongest, the one who could survive." "And the other two?" "Your sister-in-law, Marcia, Patricia's younger sister, offered to take them. She said she'd raise them, away from the pain, away from the loss." Eduardo's blood turned to ice. "Marcia," she was desperate, Elena said. "No money, no home, no future, but she loved Patricia, and she said she couldn't let the other two die. So you gave them away. We saved them," she said. "The doctors were going to let them die. We gave them a chance." Eduardo stepped back. "You didn't give them a chance, you sold them." Elena flinched. "What?" "The clinic," he said. 2 million rees, paid during Patricia's pregnancy. Who was behind it?" She didn't answer. "Was it you?" he demanded. "No," she whispered. "It was Dr. Veloso." Eduardo froze. "The obstetrician?" She nodded. "He approached me months before the birth, said Patricia's pregnancy was unique, that the embryos had been modified, genetically enhanced, stronger, smarter, healthier." Eduardo's stomach twisted. "What do you mean, modified?" "He implanted artificial embryos," Elena said, "without Patricia's knowledge, without yours. He said it was the future of medicine, that these children could be perfect." Eduardo felt sick. "And you agreed?" "I didn't know at first," she said. "But when Patricia went into labor, when they said only one baby could live, Dr. Veloso said the other two were valuable, that they could be part of a program, a medical breakthrough." Eduardo's voice dropped to a whisper. "You let them turn my sons into experiments." "We thought we were saving them," she said, tears falling. "We thought they'd have better lives, better care, better futures. And instead," Eduardo said, voice rising, "instead they were abandoned on the street, starving, scared, for 5 years." Elena sobbed. "Marcia, she was supposed to care for them, but she disappeared after Patricia's funeral. No one knew where she went." Eduardo's mind raced. Marcia, gone, but the boys were found alive, which meant they escaped, he said. They ran, they survived, on their own. Elena looked up. "I thought they were dead." Eduardo leaned over her. "You don't get to cry, you don't get to grieve, you stole them, you sold them. And now you want forgiveness." "I want to help," she said. "I have documents, medical records, the clinic's name, the the doctor's private number. I kept them just in case. Eduardo stared at her, then slowly he took the folder, flipped it open. Names, dates, bank transfers, and a single address, Clinica Lumina. Cal 17 Interior B, a fertility clinic, hidden, secret, illegal. Eduardo closed the folder, looked at her. "You're not my mother anymore," he said. "You're a stranger, and if you ever come near my sons again, I'll destroy you." She didn't argue, just nodded, and left. That afternoon, Eduardo called Dr. Enrique. He came within the hour. Eduardo handed him the folder. The doctor flipped through it. His face darkened. "This is worse than I thought," he said. "How?" "Clinica Lumina isn't just a fertility clinic," he said. "It's a black market biotech lab. They specialize in genetic modification, embryo enhancement. They've been investigated for years, but no one's ever had proof." "And now we do," Eduardo said. The doctor looked up. "Eduardo, this is dangerous. These people don't just break laws, they erase people who get in their way." "I don't care," Eduardo said. "I want that clinic shut down. I want Dr. Veloso arrested. And I want every record of what they did to my sons exposed." Dr. Enrique hesitated. "There's something else." "What?" "The genetic modifications, they weren't just for health, they were for control." Eduardo froze. "What do you mean?" "There's a marker," the doctor said. "A synthetic gene sequence. It allows remote monitoring, heart rate, brain activity, location tracking." Eduardo's blood ran cold. "They're tracking my sons." "It's possible," Dr. Enrique said. "If the implant was activated at birth, they could have been watched this whole time." Eduardo stood. "Then we deactivate it. Now." The doctor shook his head. "It's not that simple. The only way to remove it is through a specialized procedure, and it's risky." "How risky?" "If something goes wrong, it could cause brain damage or worse." Eduardo sat down, looked at the photo of the three boys. "Sleeping together, safe for now. If they're being watched," he said, "then they're not safe. Do the procedure, whatever it takes." Dr. Enrique nodded. "I know someone, a neurosurgeon off the grid. He's done this before." "Set it up," Eduardo said. "Tonight." That evening, Rosa prepared dinner. The boys laughed. Pedro taught Lucas how to fold a paper airplane. Mateo raced it across the room. They cheered. Eduardo watched, smiled, but his heart was heavy. He kissed each of them good night. "Sleep tight, Miss Amores," he whispered. As he turned off the light, Pedro called out, "Papa?" "She, Mijo. Do you think our real mom would be proud of us?" Eduardo sat on the edge of the bed, touched Pedro's cheek. "She already is," he said, "and so am I." Pedro smiled. Then softly, "I dreamt about her last night. She was smiling, and she said they found you." Eduardo's breath caught. He looked at the other two. Lucas and Mateo were already asleep, but their lips they moved at the same time, like they'd heard him, like they knew. Midnight. The house was dark. Eduardo stood at the window. Dr. Enrique's car pulled up. A man in a dark coat got out. "The surgeon." Eduardo met him at the door. No words, just a nod. They went to the study. The doctor laid out tools, scans, a small device. "This will disrupt the signal," he said. "It won't remove the implant, but it'll blind them. They won't be able to track the boys." Eduardo looked at the monitor. 3 tiny dots, pulsing, alive, connected. "Do it," he said. The doctor pressed a button. The screen flickered. Then the dots vanished. Gone. Eduardo exhaled. For the first time in 5 years, his sons were free. The city slept, but Eduardo didn't. He stood at the window again, watching, waiting. The house was quiet, too quiet, the kind of silence that doesn't feel peaceful but loaded, like the air itself knew something was coming. The boys were asleep, all 3, together. Pedro in the middle, arms wrapped around Lucas and Matteo like he was afraid they'd vanish. And maybe they would, because Eduardo had just learned the truth. They weren't just being watched, they were owned by a system, a network, a shadowy operation that didn't care about love or family or fatherhood. They cared about control, and they weren't going to let go, not without a fight. The call had come at 2:17 a.m. Dr. Enrique's voice low, urgent. "Eduardo, I found it." "Found what?" "The clinic's real name." "Not Clinica Lumina, that's a front. The actual operation is called Proyecto Series." Eduardo's blood ran cold. "What is that?" "A genetic enhancement program, funded by private investors, backed by former military scientists. They specialize in creating optimized children, stronger, smarter, healthier, and they implant tracking markers at birth." Eduardo clenched the phone. "And my sons?" "They're registered assets," Enrique said. "Not patients, assets, with ID numbers, medical files, behavioral logs, everything." Eduardo's breath stopped. "They've been monitoring them." "For 5 years," the doctor said. "Heart rate, sleep patterns, cognitive development, even their dreams." Dreams. "The implants pick up brainwave activity during REM sleep. They've been studying them, Eduardo, like lab rats." Eduardo dropped into a chair. His sons, his children, not just stolen, cataloged. "Where is this place?" he whispered. "Cal 17, Interior B, but it's not what you think. It's not a clinic, it's a compound, heavily guarded. No public records, no permits, it's off the grid." Eduardo stood. "Then we go in." "We," Enrique said. "Eduardo, this isn't a rescue mission, it's a war." "I don't care," Eduardo said. "I'm not losing them again." There was a long pause. Then, "I know someone. A former intelligence officer, works off the books, he can get us inside." "Call him," Eduardo said. "Now." Dawn broke. Pale light crept across the floor. Eduardo sat at the kitchen table, coffee untouched, eyes fixed on the folder Dr. Enrique had brought. Photos, documents, a list, names, dates, and 3 numbers. Series 714. Pedro Fernandez Series 715. Lucas Series 716. Matteo. Eduardo's hands trembled. They'd given them codes, like they were machines, like they were property. Rosa walked in, silent. She saw the folder, didn't speak, just placed a hand on his shoulder. "They're not just yours, Eduardo," she said softly. "They're yours. No number, no code, no system can change that." He looked up. "They've been watching them, Rosa, for 5 years." She nodded. "Then it's time they stopped." By 9 o'clock a.m., the team arrived, not police, not soldiers, ghosts. 3 men, no names, no uniforms, just cold eyes and quiet movements. The leader, tall, scarred, voice like gravel, handed Eduardo a black vest. "Put this on. If things go loud, you stay behind us. No heroics." Eduardo nodded. "Where are the boys?" "With Rosa. In the panic room, she knows what to do." The man studied him. "You sure about this? Once we cross that door, there's no going back." Eduardo looked at the photo of his 3 sons, smiling together. "I've been ready since the day they were taken." The drive was silent. No music, no words. Just the hum of the engine and the weight of what was coming. Cal 17 was in the industrial zone. Abandoned warehouses, broken fences, rusted signs. Interior B looked like every other building. Gray, cold, unmarked. But the security cameras, they were everywhere. Motion sensors, laser grids. Biometric locks. This wasn't a clinic, it was a fortress. The team moved fast. One man disabled the power. Another hacked the security feed. The third, Eduardo's guide, slid a thin blade into the side door. It clicked, opened. They slipped inside. The air was sterile, cold. smelling of antiseptic and metal. Hallways stretched in both directions. White walls, fluorescent lights, doors with digital keypads. No signs, no labels, just silence. Eduardo followed, heart pounding. They moved room to room, empty labs, filing cabinets, freezers filled with vials. Then a door with a red light. Authorized personnel only. The leader nodded. They breached it. Inside, a control room, screens, monitors, live feeds, and there on the center screen his sons, sleeping in his house, zoomed in, close. One camera focused on Pedro's chest, rising and falling. Another on Lucas's hand, twitching in a dream. Mateo turning in his sleep. They were watching them right now. Eduardo's breath came fast. "This is real," he whispered. "They're still tracking them." The leader typed fast, pulled up files, patient logs, development reports, behavioral assessments. Subject Series 715 shows advanced problem-solving skills. Recommend accelerated cognitive training. Subject Series 716 exhibits high emotional intelligence, potential for social manipulation. Subject Series 714 remains the strongest, ideal candidate for Phase 2. Eduardo's fists clenched. "Phase 2? What's Phase 2? He asked. The leader scrolled, then stopped. A document, Project Series, Phase 2 Activation Protocol. Eduardo read. His blood turned to ice. "They're not just tracking them," he said. "They're activating them." "What do you mean?" the leader asked. Eduardo pointed at the screen. "Look at the dates. The activation is scheduled." He leaned in. Activation date, 72 hours from now. Method, remote neural stimulation. Objective, trigger latent genetic programming. "What the hell is latent genetic programming?" the leader muttered. Eduardo already knew. It was in the medical files. The enhancements, not just stronger bodies, not just smarter minds, control. They'd implanted a command trigger in their DNA, a switch. And in 72 hours, someone was going to flip it. They didn't find Dr. Veloso, but they found proof. Files. Videos. A recording. Eduardo played it. An older man, cold eyes, white coat, standing in a lab. Day 30. Triplet Series 714, 715, 716. Genetic stability confirmed. Cognitive markers exceeding projections. Emotional bonding suppressed through prenatal hormone regulation. They will not form deep attachments. They will obey. Eduardo froze the screen, suppressed emotional bonding. But the boys loved each other. They clung to each other. They protected each other. "That didn't work," Eduardo whispered. The video continued. "If the subjects are ever recovered by the biological father, activate Protocol Sigma. Induce cardiac anomaly. Make it look like natural failure." Eduardo's breath stopped. They weren't just going to take them back. They were going to kill them, make it look like an accident, and erase them. Forever, they took everything. Hard drives, files, the recording, and one last thing, a small metal box. Inside, 3 vials, clear liquid, labeled. Series 714 antidote, Series 715 antidote, Series 716 antidote. The leader looked at Eduardo. Antidote for what? Eduardo didn't answer. He already knew, for the activation, for the kill switch. Someone had betrayed the project, left a way out, and now it was in his hands. Back at the house, Rosa met them at the door. The boys were awake. Pedro ran to Eduardo. "Papa, we missed you." Eduardo dropped to his knees, held him. Held all of them. "I missed you too," he whispered. "So much." Lucas looked up. "You were gone a long time." "We had to fix something," Eduardo said. "Something broken." Mateo tugged his sleeve. "Are we safe now?" Eduardo looked at Dr. Enrique. The doctor nodded. He took the vials. "1 dose each," he said. "It'll neutralize the activation trigger. They'll be safe." Eduardo watched as the needle went in, one by one, no tears, no fear, just trust. When it was done, Pedro smiled. "Feels warm," he said. Eduardo pulled them close. "You're safe," he said. "You're free." That night, Eduardo sat with them again, all three asleep, together. He looked at the city beyond the window. Somewhere out there, Dr. Veloso was still alive. The investors, the scientists, the people who thought they could own his children, they were still out there. But now he had the truth, and the world was going to see it. The morning sun poured through the windows like liquid gold, but Eduardo didn't feel warmth. He felt fire, not from the sun, from inside. Because last night, while the boys slept, safe, warm, finally free, he'd made a decision. One that would change everything. Not just for his sons, for all of them. The ones like Lucas and Mateo, the ones still out there, still hidden, still owned. He stood at the window again, watching the city wake up, people rushing to work, kids laughing on their way to school, life moving forward. But Eduardo, he was about to stop it and make it look. He called Dr. Enrique at 6 a.m. No small talk, no hesitation. "I'm going public." A pause on the other end. Then, "Eduardo, you know what that means, right?" "I do," he said. "I lose control of the story, I become a target. The boys become headlines. And you still want to do it." Eduardo looked at the three sleeping boys on the security monitor, side by side, holding hands. "Yes," he said, "because if I don't, no one else will." By 8 a.m., the press release was drafted, not by a PR team, by him. Every word, every sentence, every truth, he didn't hold back, he didn't soften it, he burned it all down. ***, my name is Eduardo Fernandez. 5 years ago I lost 2 of my sons, not to death, to a lie, to a conspiracy, to a medical experiment disguised as mercy. My wife, Patricia, died giving birth to triplets, but I was told only one survived. I was lied to. 2 of my sons, Lucas and Mateo, were taken from me at birth, genetically modified, implanted with tracking devices, raised in secrecy, and then abandoned, left to survive on the streets. While powerful people watched, while my own family covered it up, but I found them, and now I'm telling the world what was done to them, because they are not assets, they are not experiments, they are not property, they are my sons, and I will not let their story be erased. He attached the DNA report, the medical files, the financial records, the video of Dr. Veloso, and the photo. The one of the 3 boys, dirt on their faces, arms around each other, shivering on the sidewalk. Before he clicked send, to every major news outlet, to every human rights organization, to every journalist who'd ever covered medical ethics. Then he turned off his phone and woke the boys. Breakfast was different, not just pancakes and chocolate, not just laughter, silence. Because Eduardo sat at the head of the table watching them, really watching. Lucas poured milk for Mateo. Mateo passed the honey to Pedro. Pedro smiled. And in that moment Eduardo saw it, not just the bond, the balance, like they were never meant to be apart, like they were stronger together. "Papa," Pedro said, "you're looking at us like we're about to disappear." Eduardo smiled. "No, Mijo. I'm looking at you like I just found you." Lucas tilted his head. "But you found us yesterday." "No," Eduardo said. "I saw you yesterday, today I know you." They didn't understand, but they felt it, and that was enough. By 10 a.m., the world exploded. The story went viral. Father exposes secret clone project, triplets stolen at birth, family conspiracy revealed, medical nightmare. Children engineered, tracked, abandoned social media erupted. People were angry, not just at the science, at the betrayal, at the theft of childhood, at the idea that a father could be robbed of his own children. And Eduardo, he became a symbol, not of wealth, not of power, of love, of a man who refused to let go. At noon, the first knock came. Not the police, not the press, a woman, late 40s, eyes red. She held a photo, 3 babies, identical. In 2018, she said, voice breaking, I gave birth to triplets. I was told 2 died, but last night I saw your story and I know. Eduardo pulled her inside. She wasn't the last. By evening, dozens had come, parents, grandparents, siblings, all with the same story. They told me my child died. I was never allowed to hold them. I was given a fake death certificate. And now they were searching. Because Eduardo's truth had lit a match and the fire was spreading. But not everyone was celebrating. That night the call came. Unknown number. Eduardo answered, a voice distorted, cold. You think you've won, Fernandez. Eduardo didn't flinch. I have won. My sons are safe. You exposed one clinic. There are dozens like it, hidden, protected, funded by people you can't even imagine. Then I'll expose them all. You'll be destroyed, the voice said. Your reputation. Your company, your life. Eduardo smiled. I don't care, try to take them, come to my house, look into their eyes, then tell me they're not human, tell me they don't deserve to live. Silence. Then click, gone. Eduardo placed the phone down, went to the boys' room. They were asleep. Again. Together. He sat on the edge of the bed, touched Pedro's hair. Lucas stirred. Papa, she my amor. Are we in trouble? No, Eduardo said. We're safe. But people are scared of us, Mateo whispered, because we're different. Eduardo's heart broke. He pulled them close. You are different, he said, but not because of science, not because of genes, because of love, because you survived, because you found each other, because you fought. He looked at all 3. And I will never let anyone make you feel like you don't belong. You are mine, and I am yours. Pedro reached out, grabbed his hand. Then we're a real family. Eduardo kissed their foreheads. Yes, he whispered. Finally. The next morning, Eduardo took them to the park. No bodyguards, no driver, just him and his sons. They ran, they laughed, they climbed, they fell. And Eduardo let them. Because they were kids, not experiments, not assets, children. A woman approached, hesitant. Excuse me, are you Eduardo Fernandez? He nodded. She handed him a letter. My daughter, she said. She was taken at birth. They said she died, but I know she's out there. Please help me find her. Eduardo took the letter. I will, he said. I promise. That night he stood before a live camera, no suit, no script, just truth. I used to think being a father meant providing money, security, a name. He looked down. Now I know it means fighting for their right to exist, for their right to be loved, for their right to be free. He looked up. If you're watching this and you've been lied to, speak up. If you've lost a child, search. If you've been told they died, don't believe it. He held up a photo. The 3 boys, smiling, together. This is my family. And I will never stop fighting for them. The courtroom was silent, not the kind of silence that comes from respect, the kind that comes from fear. Every seat filled, reporters, lawyers, families who'd lost children, parents holding photos of babies they were told had died. And in the center, Eduardo, standing, alone, but not really, because behind him in the front row sat his sons, Pedro, Lucas, Mateo, dressed in matching navy shirts, holding hands, watching, waiting. Today wasn't just a custody hearing. It was a reckoning. The judge entered, gavel down. Case 0471-24, in custody of Lucas and Mateo Fernandez. Eduardo's lawyer, Dr. Roberto, stood. Your Honor, my client, Eduardo Fernandez, is the biological father of Lucas and Mateo. DNA evidence confirms a 99.9% match. These children were taken at birth under false pretenses, subjected to illegal genetic experimentation, and abandoned. They are not wards of the state. They are his sons. The opposing counsel, a slick, silver-haired man in a $5,000 suit, rose slowly. Your Honor, while we do not dispute the DNA results, we must emphasize that Lucas and Mateo were legally placed under the care of a third party at birth. Their current situation is emotionally charged but not legally sound. We request a neutral evaluation and temporary state custody. Eduardo's jaw clenched. Neutral evaluation, like they were lab rats, like they weren't human. Then a small hand tugged his sleeve. He looked down. Pedro, Papa, he whispered. Let us talk. Eduardo froze. You, Pedro nodded. We want to say something. Lucas and Mateo looked up, silent, determined. Eduardo turned to the judge. Your Honor, my sons would like to speak. The courtroom erupted. Objections, gasps. The judge raised a hand. Silence. Are they prepared? Eduardo looked at them. They nodded. All three. The judge hesitated. Then, very well, but one at a time. Pedro stepped forward. No fear, no hesitation, just truth. I'm Pedro, he said, voice clear. I'm 5 years old. I used to think I was an only child, but then I found my brothers. He pointed to Lucas and Mateo. We were born together, but someone took them. Gave them to a woman who didn't love them. A woman who said she was tired of them. A woman who left them on the street. His voice didn't shake. It wasn't fair. They didn't choose to be born, they didn't choose to be taken, but they did choose to survive. He turned to Eduardo. And then he found us, not because of DNA, not because of papers, because he felt us like we were always part of him. Tears filled the courtroom. Even the opposing lawyer looked down. Pedro stepped back. Lucas stepped forward. I'm Lucas, he said softly. I remember the hospital, cold. Bright lights. A man in a white coat said, Asset 715 is stable. I didn't know what that meant, not then, but now I do. They didn't see us as children, they saw us as things. He looked at the audience. But we're not things. We're people. We laugh, we dream, we get scared, we love. He turned to Eduardo, and he loves us, not because we're strong, not because we're smart, because we're his. The room was dead silent. Then Mateo stepped forward, the quietest of the three, but his voice stronger than steel. I'm Mateo, he said. I don't remember much, just cold, hunger. Running, hiding. But last week I had my first real birthday. Pedro made me a cake from cookies. Lucas gave me a drawing of our family, and Papa, he held me all night because I had a bad dream. His eyes glistened. I never had a dream like that before, a dream where I was safe. He looked at the judge. You can call us assets, you can call us experiments, you can call us cases, but we're not. We're brothers, and we want to go home with our father. And then all three stepped forward together, holding hands, looking at the judge, not begging, demanding. The courtroom broke. People cried. Lawyers wiped their eyes. Even the judge removed his glasses, took a long breath. Then, Mr. Fernandez, he said, voice thick, you may keep your sons. The room exploded. Applause, screams, hugs. Eduardo dropped to his knees, pulled them close. I've got you, he whispered. I've got you. That night the house was alive. Music, laughter, dancing. Rosa had cooked a feast. Pedro wore a crown made of paper. Lucas taught Mateo how to dance. Eduardo watched, smiling, but his phone buzzed. Unknown number. Again, he answered. No voice this time, just a photo. A building, burned, Clinica Lumina, gone, and beneath it 3 words: "They're safe now." Eduardo didn't know who sent it, didn't care. Some battles weren't fought in courtrooms, some were fought in shadows, and won in silence. A week later, Eduardo stood in front of a crowd, not a courtroom, a rally. Hundreds gathered, parents, journalists, activists. He held a microphone, looked at the sky. "5 years ago, I lost 2 of my sons. Today, I stand with 3, but they're not the only ones. There are others. Still out there, still missing, still stolen, so I'm not stopping. This isn't just my fight, it's ours. If you've been lied to, if you've been told your child died, search. Fight, believe. Because love doesn't follow laws, love breaks them. And I will never stop breaking them for my sons." The crowd roared. Behind him the boys waved, smiling. Free, the final scene. A quiet evening, fireflies in the garden. The 3 boys lying on a blanket staring at the stars. "Papa," Pedro said, "do you think Mom sees us?" Eduardo sat beside them. "I think she never stopped." Lucas pointed. "That one's bright," Mateo whispered. "It looks like it's winking." Eduardo smiled. And in that moment he knew they weren't just his, they were meant to be. Look around you right now. Someone you love might be missing, not because they are gone, but because someone lied. A father found his sons on a cold street, and he fought, not with weapons, with love. If this story moved you, subscribe, because real stories like this, they're happening right now. And the next one, it could be yours. Like, comment, share. Because sometimes, a video is the only thing standing between a child and the truth.